Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world fades and the soul begins to listen. You may be walking through trials, facing uncertainty, or wondering if your path has meaning. But let me tell you something deep within my heart. There are no accidents in a life surrendered to divine purpose. You didn't come here by chance, and you're not going through what you're going through without reason. There is a higher hand at work, shaping your steps, calming your storms, and whispering to your spirit even when your mind can't comprehend it. That hand is not the hand of fate, it's not luck, it's the hand of God. Today, I want to speak to your heart, not your head, and reveal 7 powerful spiritual signs that show, without question, that God has His hand over your life, not because you earned it, not because you're perfect, but because He loves you, He knows you, and He has a purpose for you. So open your heart, lean in, and let's journey together into the evidence of the divine working in your everyday walk. There is a power in this universe so great, so infinitely intelligent, that when we align ourselves with it, we begin to move in harmony with our highest potential. This power is not a myth or an abstract idea. It is real, active, and ever-present. It is what many call divine guidance, a force that does not merely exist in sacred texts or religious rituals, but breathes and operates in the daily decisions, challenges, and victories of our lives. Recognizing the signs of God's hand in your life is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of conscious awareness, spiritual sensitivity, and unwavering faith. Every individual is born with the capacity to connect to this guidance. It whispers through intuition, it speaks through dreams, it moves through the hearts of others, and it reveals itself in moments of silence and reflection. When you recognize that you are not alone in your journey, that you are being led by an invisible hand that knows the way even when you cannot see it, then life becomes more than a struggle. It becomes a mission. To walk under divine guidance is to understand that setbacks are not failures but setups. Delays are not denials but divine timings. The people who come into your life, the doors that open, and even the ones that close, none of these are coincidences. They are orchestrated events designed to build you, not break you. You must develop the mindset that every moment, every experience, and every challenge contains within it a spiritual seed planted by a higher intelligence for your personal growth. Many wander aimlessly, searching for signs in the wrong places, never stopping long enough to listen to the still, small voice within. That voice is the compass of your spirit, pointing always toward truth, purpose, and destiny. The more you ignore it, the louder the world becomes, but the more you tune in, the more clarity you receive. Divine guidance is not a thunderclap from the sky. It is a series of gentle nudges, an idea that won't leave your heart, a sudden peace in the middle of chaos, a stranger's kind word that speaks directly to your circumstance. Recognizing the signs of God's hand is about perspective. 2 people can experience the same event, and while one sees coincidence, the other sees confirmation. This is not about superstition. It's about spiritual intelligence, the ability to perceive meaning and direction in the rhythms of life. To cultivate this ability, you must begin with gratitude. When you thank the divine for the little things, you train your mind to see the greater hand behind them. Gratitude is a magnet for more divine movement in your life. Another sign is the alignment of events. You think of someone and they call. You pray for an answer, and a book falls into your hands with the very insight you needed. You take a step in faith, and resources you never expected begin to appear. These are not random. They are affirmations that you are being guided, supported, and led. The key is not just to notice them, but to respond. Action based on divine guidance multiplies your results. What would take years by effort alone is accelerated when you walk in step with the plan of the Creator. You'll also recognize divine guidance in the form of protection. Have you ever been delayed and then realized you avoided danger? Have you ever been disappointed only to find that something better was waiting? When your plans fall apart and yet things still come together, this is not chaos, this is orchestration. You were not protected because you were lucky, but because purpose was shielding you. When you carry divine purpose, heaven protects its investment. Sometimes divine guidance shows up as discomfort. You may feel pushed out of your comfort zone, stretched beyond your limit, or placed in situations that test your endurance. This is not punishment, this is preparation. God's hand doesn't always comfort. It sometimes challenges, because only through pressure can you discover the power within you. Resistance is a sign that something greater is being built in your spirit. Just like muscles grow through strain, so your character grows through divine discomfort. You must trust the timing. You may be doing all the right things and still not see results, but spiritual guidance works on a different clock. What seems delayed is often being developed behind the scenes. When the time is right, all the pieces will fall into place so perfectly, you will realize that the wait was never wasted. Patience is proof of your faith. And faith is the currency of divine guidance. Recognizing God's hand also comes through people. Certain individuals will be placed in your life not by chance, but by divine appointment. They may offer encouragement, open doors, or simply walk with you during a tough season. Learn to recognize them. These are not just friends. They are spiritual allies sent to support your mission, and you, in turn, may be the sign someone else is praying for. The hand of God often moves through human hands. Finally, divine guidance transforms you. When you truly walk under its influence, you become more loving, more courageous, more disciplined, more compassionate. You begin to rise above fear and walk in purpose. The noise of the world loses its grip, and you find a peace that passes understanding. You're not swayed by every opinion because your direction comes from a higher source. You no longer need to manipulate outcomes because you trust the one guiding your journey. So if you've ever wondered, is God really involved in my life? The answer is yes. The signs are there. They've always been there. Your job is to open your spiritual eyes, align your actions with your highest values, and move forward with unwavering faith. You were not created to drift. You were created to walk in purpose, and divine guidance is your roadmap. When you recognize the signs, your life changes. You stop chasing and start trusting. You stop striving and start flowing. And you realize that the hand of God has never left you. It has only been waiting for you to see it. The moment you do, you will no longer walk alone. You will walk with confidence, with clarity, and with power. Because when the Creator of the universe places His hand upon your life, nothing and no one can stop what has been set in motion. There are moments in life when we are brought to our knees, not in weakness, but in wonder. In the stillness of a breaking dawn, or the hush of a hospital room, in the laughter of a child, or the silence of a broken heart, there is a presence that draws near, a presence that whispers through the noise of this world and says, "You are not alone. You are being led by something greater than yourself. A higher power is at work in your life. Now, I want you to understand something deep and eternal. Life is not a random collection of experiences. It is not a chain of meaningless events. No, there is order, there is purpose, there is a divine hand guiding the faithful, there are spiritual clues, signposts on the journey that prove beyond doubt you are not walking this path by your own wisdom or strength. The first clue is a deep and unshakable peace, even when storms rage around you. I'm not talking about the peace that comes from a perfect bank account or a comfortable home. I'm talking about the peace that passes understanding. It's the calm that comes in the midst of chaos, the stillness that remains when the winds of life are blowing hard. That peace is not manufactured by man, it is a gift from above. It is the fingerprint of a higher power resting on your spirit, reminding you that even when the world spins out of control, heaven is still in command. The second clue is divine interruptions. Oh, how we plan and strive and set our course, but then something changes. Unexpected, unexplainable, unavoidable. A door closes, a relationship ends, a dream fades, and we wonder why. But later we see it clearly, we were being redirected. Protected, preserved, that interruption wasn't the end of the road. It was the hand of God turning us towards something greater. The detour was not a disaster, it was destiny. The third clue is transformation. You are not who you used to be. The anger that once controlled you is gone. The fear that paralyzed you has lifted. The bitterness that poisoned your heart has been replaced with love. You didn't change yourself by willpower or positive thinking. No, there is a higher power that reached down into your soul and made you new, a power that reshapes hearts and renews minds. When you see lasting change in your character, when light begins to shine where darkness once ruled, you can be sure that divine hands are working. The fourth clue is divine appointments. You meet people who speak the exact words you needed to hear. You receive help from someone you didn't expect. You are at the right place at the right time, not by luck, but by design. These moments are not coincidences. They are orchestrated, planned. You are being led, step by step, by a loving and intentional higher power who knows what you need before you even ask. When your life begins to feel like a series of divine connections, take heart. God is moving. The fifth clue is provision in unlikely places. Have you ever come to the end of your resources, only to find that somehow your needs were still met? That when you had nothing left to give, something or someone came through? That when it should have been over, it wasn't? That's not your cleverness. That's not the economy. That's the hand of God. He provides water in the desert, manna in the wilderness, strength in your weakest hour. Provision is a sign that you are not walking this road alone. The sixth clue is a calling you can't ignore. There's a voice inside you that won't be silenced, a purpose that keeps pulling you forward. You may try to run from it, distract yourself, bury it beneath excuses, but it remains, it burns, it stirs, and every time you try to settle for less, it reminds you that you were made for more. That's the voice of the one who created you. The one who fashioned you with gifts, with passions, with destiny, and he will not let you forget it. That divine urge, that inner compulsion to rise higher and live greater, is not born from ambition. It is born from heaven. The seventh and final clue is love, pure, unconditional, life-changing love. When you've experienced the kind of love that picks you up when you're broken, that wraps around you when you feel unworthy, that lifts your head when you're ashamed, you have touched the divine. That kind of love cannot come from human effort. It is not of this world. It is holy. It is sacred. And when it fills your heart, you are never the same. Love is the highest sign that a higher power is moving in your life. So if you've felt these clues, this peace, these interruptions, the transformation, the divine timing, the provision, the calling, the love, then I urge you, don't ignore them, don't dismiss them, don't chalk them up to luck or fate. Recognize them for what they are, evidence of a living, loving, leading God, a God who sees you, a God who knows you, a God who has never taken his hand off your life. You may not see the full path yet. You may still be waiting for answers, still searching for meaning, but if you open your heart, if you tune your spirit to listen, You will see the clues. They're not hidden, they're not rare. They're all around you, waiting to be noticed by the soul that's ready to believe. You are being led, not pushed, not forced, led by a higher power who calls you by name and leads you with mercy. And if you trust that guidance, if you follow those clues, you will find yourself walking in purpose, walking in power, walking in peace. There is no greater assurance, no deeper joy, than knowing that your life is not your own, that you are in the hands of something greater, that you are not wandering, but walking, guided, guarded, and graced by the one who knows the end from the beginning. Let your heart rest in that truth. Let your life rise in that power. You are being led, and that makes all the difference. There are times in life when the world is so loud, so overwhelming, that we can barely hear ourselves think. The noise of fear, the clamor of doubt, the chaos of uncertainty, it all rushes in like a storm. And yet it is in the quietest moments, the ones that most overlook, where something sacred happens. Heaven whispers. You see, God doesn't always shout from mountaintops. He doesn't always write his answers in the clouds. Sometimes he moves softly, gently, quietly, through a whisper in the heart, a feeling in the soul, a stillness that calms every fear. When heaven whispers, you may not hear it with your ears, but your spirit will know. And when you learn to listen to that divine whisper, you will come to see that God is not far away. He is walking with you, step by step, moment by moment. How can you know that God is walking with you? It begins with a sense of nearness, even when no one else is around. You could be in a hospital room, a courtroom, or the silence of your own bedroom, and suddenly you feel it. A peace that makes no sense, a strength that rises from deep within, a quiet voice that says, I am here. That's not your imagination, that's not wishful thinking, that's the presence of a loving God closer than your very breath. God walks with those who invite him in, not just on Sunday mornings or in moments of desperation, but daily, intentionally, sincerely. When you make room for him in your life, through prayer, through gratitude, through obedience, he shows up. And not in a way that forces himself upon you, but in a way that gently leads you forward. It's in the unexpected answer to a prayer. It's in the friend who calls at just the right time. It's in the scripture that leaps off the page and speaks directly to your heart. These are not accidents, these are whispers. One of the clearest signs that God is walking with you is that your steps are ordered. Things begin to fall into place in ways you never could have arranged on your own. You meet the right people, opportunities open where there were only walls, paths are made where there was once only wilderness. That's not coincidence, that's providence, and it's proof that you are not walking through life alone. God's presence is not just revealed in blessings, though. It's revealed in burdens, too. When the weight of life grows heavy and you still find strength to stand, when tears fall but hope remains, when your heart breaks but your spirit keeps going, that's not your strength. That's his. The world may see you struggling, but heaven sees you growing, and God walks closest in the valleys, not just the mountaintops. Sometimes God's whisper comes as conviction, a quiet tug at your heart when you're about to go the wrong way. You may feel uneasy about a decision, a relationship, or a direction you're tempted to follow. That discomfort is not to harm you, it's to protect you. It's the gentle hand of God steering you away from destruction and back toward your destiny. When you heed that whisper, you avoid pitfalls you never even knew were there. That's love, that's mercy, that's God walking beside you. Another way you know God is walking with you is that your character begins to change. You find patience in places you used to explode. You show love where you once held bitterness. You speak life when you once spread doubt. This transformation doesn't come from motivational quotes or sheer willpower. It comes from walking with the one who is holy. His nature begins to reflect in yours. His peace becomes your peace. His love becomes your love. You're not just trying to be better. You're being changed from the inside out. When heaven whispers, it also gives you direction. You may not get a full map. You may not know what the next 5 years look like, but you'll know the next step, and that's enough. You'll feel a nudge to apply for that job, to reach out to that person, to speak that truth, to take that leap. And when you obey those whispers, even when they don't make sense, you'll see the hand of God unfold something beautiful in your life. Now, not everyone will understand your walk. They might say you're foolish, too idealistic, too spiritual. But that's because they haven't heard what you've heard. They haven't seen what you've seen. When heaven whispers to you, it gives you a courage that cannot be explained, a confidence that doesn't depend on circumstances. You may not be able to show them the evidence, but you'll carry the assurance. Because when you know that God is walking with you, no crowd can distract you, and no storm can destroy you. One of the most beautiful things about God's walk with us is that it never depends on our perfection. You may fall, you may fail, you may doubt, but He remains faithful. His whisper never turns to silence. His presence never withdraws in anger. Even when you stumble, He is there to lift you. Even when you wander, He is waiting. His walk with you is not based on your strength. It's based on His grace. And as you continue to listen, as you continue to trust, you'll begin to see that every step, every season, every struggle was part of the journey. You'll look back and realize that what you thought were detours were actually divine appointments. That the pain that almost broke you became the foundation that built you. That the nights you cried alone were the nights God held you closest. So don't wait for the thunder. Don't look only for the signs and wonders. Learn to hear the whisper in the silence, in the stillness, in the sacred moments of everyday life. God is speaking, and when you listen, you'll know. He's not just watching over you. He's walking with you. And friend, there is no greater comfort, no greater strength, no greater promise than this, that the Creator of the universe has chosen to walk beside you, not as a distant ruler, but as a faithful companion. So walk on with faith, with hope, with your ears tuned to heaven, because when God walks with you, you will never walk alone. There comes a time in every life when we pause long enough to wonder if something greater is at work, something beyond what we can see, something deeper than what we can touch. It's in these moments, whether in joy or sorrow, in triumph or trial, that we begin to recognize the gentle movements of grace. And when you've been touched by grace, truly touched, you'll never be the same again. Because grace isn't just a word in a book or a concept in a sermon. It's a living presence. It is the evidence that God is not only real, but deeply involved in your life. You see, grace doesn't come crashing in with noise and spectacle. It doesn't demand attention or boast of its arrival. Grace flows quietly, it works patiently. It surrounds us in ways we often miss, until suddenly one day we feel it in our spirit, in our breath, in the way life begins to make sense even in the middle of the mess. Grace is the whisper that says, you are still loved, even when you feel unworthy. Grace is the nudge that says, get back up, even after you've fallen hard. The spiritual signals of divine presence are everywhere when you know what to look for. They are the signs that grace has found you and that heaven has not forgotten your name. One of the first signs is forgiveness, real, undeserved forgiveness. Not the kind that the world gives when you've paid your debt or made things right. No, grace forgives before you've cleaned yourself up. It meets you in the mud, in the broken places, and wraps you in mercy. That kind of forgiveness changes a person. It sets your soul free. You stop living with the weight of guilt. You begin to walk with your head held high, not in pride, but in peace. That peace is the touch of grace. Another sign is when your heart begins to soften. You used to carry bitterness like a badge. You held on to anger, justified by pain. But something begins to shift. You find yourself forgiving others who never said they were sorry. You start to release the grudges that once defined you. That change doesn't come from willpower. It comes from the Spirit working inside you. Grace has started to transform you from the inside out. That softening heart is not weakness. It is the power of divine presence at work. There's also a holy longing that grows within you, a thirst for something this world can't quench. You start to hunger for truth, for purpose, for closeness with your Creator. That longing is grace drawing you home. You feel restless in your spirit, not because something is wrong, but because something sacred is calling you. And when you respond to that call, when you begin to seek, to ask, to pray, you find that the presence you were searching for has been with you all along. The presence of grace is also seen in moments of unexpected strength. When you go through trials that should have broken you, when you endure loss yet find comfort, when your heart is heavy but your hope remains steady, that's not ordinary endurance. That's divine grace holding you up when you don't have the power to stand on your own. When you feel carried through situations you couldn't survive on your own, that's not chance. That's a signal. That's grace in action. You may also notice a new kind of awareness, a sensitivity to the spiritual, to the needs of others, to the pain in the world. Where once you may have passed by suffering without a second thought, now you feel it. You care. You want to do something. That compassion is not random. It's the Spirit moving within you, awakening you to your purpose, calling you to live beyond yourself. That compassion is the evidence that divine presence is not just visiting you, it's dwelling in you. One of the most beautiful signs of being touched by grace is the joy that flows despite your circumstances. The kind of joy that isn't dependent on everything going right. It's the smile that comes through tears, the gratitude that rises from the ashes, the laughter that breaks through sorrow. That joy comes from knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you are not alone. God is with you, and His grace is enough. That joy, friend, is one of the clearest signals that heaven is near. There are also divine moments, what some may call coincidences, but you know better. The door that opened at just the right time. The friend who called when you were at your lowest, the answer that came after a whispered prayer. These are not random. These are grace-filled reminders that God is orchestrating something far greater than you can see. When you start to see these moments for what they truly are, your faith deepens. You begin to trust the timing even when it doesn't match your plans. That trust is another touch of grace. Grace will also change the way you see yourself. You no longer define yourself by your mistakes, your past, or your shortcomings. You begin to see yourself through the eyes of love. You realize you are chosen, you are redeemed, you are called. That identity doesn't come from people or achievements. It comes from knowing you are covered by grace. You're no longer striving to be enough. You're living from a place of already being accepted. That shift in identity is a powerful sign that divine presence has marked your life. Finally, grace gives you the courage to walk in faith, to take steps into the unknown, to forgive, to love, to serve, to speak the truth, not because you feel confident in yourself, but because you trust the one who walks with you. You're not walking by sight anymore. You're walking by faith. That kind of courage only comes when you've been touched by grace and filled with the assurance that God's presence will never leave you. So open your eyes, look around your life, look within your heart. if you've experienced forgiveness that you didn't earn, if you've found strength you didn't expect, if you've felt called to something more, if you've been moved to love when hate would have been easier, if you've discovered peace in the middle of pain, then, my friend, you've been touched by grace. And once grace touches you, it doesn't just pass by. It stays, it transforms, it leads, it assures you that you're not alone and never have been, because the greatest signal of all, the one that cannot be denied, is love, a love so powerful, so persistent, so perfect, that nothing in this world can separate you from it. You are not forgotten, you are not forsaken, you are held in the hands of divine grace, and that, more than anything else, is the signal that God is with you right here, right now, and always. There is a stirring within the human heart that longs to know its purpose, to understand why we are here and what God wants from us. It is not just a question of destiny, but of direction. So many walk through life uncertain, searching for meaning, waiting for a sign, wondering if heaven has something more in store for them. And I want to tell you today, God does have a plan for your life. It is not hidden in mystery too deep to uncover, nor locked behind doors too heavy to open. His plan is real, it is alive, and He is revealing it every day to those who walk by faith and not by sight. God doesn't always shout His plans from the sky. He doesn't send lightning bolts to carve them in stone. Instead, He moves in ways that touch the spirit, stir the soul, and lead the heart. If you are willing to act in faith, to step when you cannot yet see the full path, then you will begin to discover the powerful ways He reveals His plan. One of the first ways God reveals His plan is through the desires He plants in your heart. Not every desire, not every whim, but those deep, holy longings that align with His character. When you feel called to serve others, to heal what is broken, to build what is good, those are not just your ideas. They are divine nudges. God works through desire, awakening purpose within you. He speaks through the fire that won't go out, the dream that won't die, the burden that drives you forward even when the road is hard. That's more than ambition. That is the beginning of revelation. God also reveals His plan through His Word. The Bible is not an old book filled with stories from the past. It is a living message, pulsing with guidance for today. When you read with an open heart, verses leap off the page. Promises speak directly to your situation. Instructions meet your needs. His Word becomes a lamp to your feet, lighting just enough of the path to take the next step. You may not see the full picture, but you will see enough to walk in obedience, and obedience, step by step, reveals the path He has prepared. Then there are the people God sends into your life. You may not recognize them at first. A teacher, a mentor, a friend, even a stranger. But they speak truth into your life at just the right moment. They challenge you, encourage you, confirm what God has already been whispering in your heart. God uses people to point you forward, to sharpen your vision, to walk beside you when you feel alone. Pay attention to those divine appointments. Sometimes a single conversation carries more clarity than months of searching. That is the hand of God moving through the voices of others. Another powerful way God reveals His plan is through your pain. No one seeks pain, no one enjoys the valley, but the truth is, some of the most profound revelations come through suffering. When life breaks us open, when we reach the end of ourselves, we often find the beginning of something greater. God does not waste pain. He uses it to refine, to reshape, to redirect. The closed door that crushed your spirit may be the very thing that saved your life. The disappointment that knocked you down may have steered you away from destruction. In the ashes God speaks, and if you listen, you will hear a new calling rise from what once felt like ruin. God's plan is also revealed through peace, not the absence of problems, but the presence of divine calm in the middle of them. When you're standing at a crossroads and you feel an unexplainable peace in one direction, that is a signal. When your heart is still, even though the circumstances are not, that is guidance. God leads through peace that the world cannot give and cannot understand. It is his quiet way of saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Circumstances are another tool God uses. Life events, open doors, shut doors, divine delays. They are not random. God is orchestrating every detail, every timing, every meeting. You may be praying for one path, and he may be guiding you another way entirely. Trust the detours, trust the waiting, trust the ways that don't make sense yet. God sees the full story, you only see a page. But when the doors begin to open where once they were closed, and when the right opportunity meets the right moment, that is not luck. That is the unfolding of his plan. And finally, God reveals his plan through the prompting of the Holy Spirit. That still, small voice within, it doesn't shout, it doesn't force, but it gently leads, a feeling, a conviction, a stirring you cannot ignore. Sometimes the Spirit will prompt you to speak, to move, to give, to go. And when you act in faith, when you trust that voice, you will look back and see how clearly it was God. But you must learn to listen, to be still, to tune your heart to heaven's frequency, because when God speaks through his Spirit, he is not just giving you direction. He is walking with you, guiding you into your purpose. Faith in action is what unlocks this journey. Not faith that waits for everything to be perfect, not faith that demands a full plan before taking the first step, but faith that says, "God, I trust you, even when I don't see the whole picture." When you walk like that, you begin to see his hand in every step. You begin to understand that nothing is wasted, nothing is too small, nothing is out of his reach. So don't wait for a burning bush. Don't sit still waiting for the heavens to open. Begin with what you know. Follow the desires that reflect his heart. Stay rooted in his word. Listen to the voices he's placed around you. Embrace the lessons in your pain. Follow the path where peace abides. Watch how he moves through your circumstances. And most of all, stay close to the Spirit's whisper. God's plan for your life is not somewhere out there. It is unfolding right here, right now, with every choice to trust, with every act of faith, with every prayer that says, "Lead me." You are stepping into the divine calling created just for you. And when you walk by faith, you will discover not only what God has planned, but who he has created you to be. Keep walking, keep believing, and watch his plan come alive before your very eyes. So today, I urge you, walk forward in faith. Trust that God is not distant. He is deeply involved in every step you take. His plan for your life is not hidden in mystery, but revealed through obedience, peace, and the quiet whisper of his Spirit. Even when the road is uncertain, his presence is sure. Keep seeking, keep believing, keep listening, for the one who began a good work in you will surely bring it to completion. You are not alone, and you are not without purpose. God's hand is on your life, and his plan is greater than you can imagine.